Hi folks, Six Slices here. Now, many of you will know that I collect Sheffield knives, but I also have a sort of sub-collection of Japanese knives. And I've got a number there from Higa Nakami's right up to a couple of Rocksteads. But one of the brands I particularly like from Japan is Moki. So they've been around since 1907, which was, I think, towards the end of the Meiji restoration period, and Japan had moved from manufacturing of swords in large numbers. That kind of ended in 1868 or so. Didn't come back in again until the 1920s with the sort of militarism and the build-up to World War II. And so in the meantime, a lot of Japanese steel companies moved themselves into the pocket knife world. The Higa Nakamis came out in the 1890s. Now, this knife is very much more modern than anything like that, but Moki started in 1907. They weren't originally called Moki, and I can't remember what the original name of the company was, but it was something far more Japanese. Moki, of course, is Japanese in that it's the affectionate term from monkey, which I think is interesting because I've just been reading James Clavell's book Shogun again. I wanted to read it before I watched the TV series, and remind me what was in the book before I watched the TV series. And the barbarians, the Portuguese and the Dutch, refer to all of the Japanese as moki, as monkeys, and you think, that's an insult. And every time the Japanese samurai finds out about it, they go absolutely ballistic that they're being disrespected, and of course they are. Anyway, so this is a Moki. I have a couple of others, and we'll have a look at those in a second, but we'll crack on with opening this one. I like the boxes that these come in and the packaging. It's very high quality, but it's relatively understated. Considering how small this knife is, the box could have been a bit smaller, but not much. Just for your interest and edification, anybody that wants to know what the number of this knife is, MK-81, and then I don't know if that's 01 or 0 or OI stroke NS, VIP-INS. VIP is the model. So, what's in the box? Well, the first thing is, and I wouldn't normally bother to show you the instructions and care instructions and warranty information. I assume this is care instructions and warranty information, but I can't say it for absolute certainty, because although it says handmade knife Moki since 1907, we've got everything here in Japanese script. The words or the abbreviation tel, fax and email are in Western script, and the email address is in Western script. But after that, the entire content is in Japanese. It's little pictures. I take it that's showing you how to open and shut a knife. Not sure it's very explicit, but nonetheless. And then we have all those instructions in Japanese, and on the back we have them again in Japanese, and then we have the English part which says knife manner, which I take it is the manner in which one should handle the knife, and the instructions are all written in Japanese. So hopefully you'll know how to work a knife just as well, because the instructions are completely useless. Now, the other thing that Moki always do, and this is why, this box is not really oversized, they always give you some sort of a slip, and the slip varies in quality depending on the knife. This one is one of the higher quality ones, actually. Might surprise you. They do, with the cheaper knives, they do a slip just like this, which you might think leather, cordura. But that's what they do with the cheap ones. The more expensive ones have one of these. And I've got one that's got an even more elaborate one, but we're not worried about that today. This is lined with, I think it's lamb skin, actually. I'm sure that's what it says. You've got a little popper to hold it shut, and on the back you have a belt loop. Now, I'm not sure that a knife like this is ever going to be carried in on a belt loop, so I would have thought a little leather slip might have been more appropriate, but not to say that's not nice. It's a very nice thing. It does seem to get marked up a bit. The other one I have is sort of mottled green. It looks like Harris tweed or something. It's not. It's cordura, but it doesn't show marks and dust like that one does. So we're getting to the bottom of this box. What else is in here? Have we got anything else? Now, the knives are always, a bit like GCs, are always wrapped in greaseproof paper, or greased paper. These are always wrapped in this corrugated cardboard. And here's the knife. Now, as I say, the box seems awfully large considering the knife, but I think it's the slip that needs the big box. But anyway, I think it's quality packaging, but it's not over the top. I don't feel like I'm paying an awful lot for the packaging, except perhaps the quality of the slips. But the slips are really good quality. It's not just a cheap, badly stitched leather thing that you might get from Viper or Jack Wolf or something like that. These are actually really quite good quality slips, even if it's a bit OTT for this little knife. So anyway, let's have a look at this little knife. I like small knives. I have quite a collection of small Japanese knives. I'm not going to show you them all today because it'll just take forever, but this one fits my sort of general criteria, and that is to say, it's small, it's shiny, it's beautiful, and it's got desert ironwood. So you've got desert ironwood handles. There's a big Moki shield in the middle of it. I think that's a shame. I don't like those sort of shields when you've got a beautiful piece of wood like this. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it adds very much, but it's probably seen as a premium touch to a knife, which it needs in a way, because these are not cheap, and they've just recently got much more expensive. I think this is just shy of £190 new today, which, there'll be people across the world falling off their stools because I just said that. But that is the way these things are going now. We'll talk about the price in a minute, actually, but I'll just show you this knife first. Now, the thing I like about logbacks, and the reason why I'm so fond of them, is that they're relatively easy to open. They have a much lighter action than a slip joint, but in most ways they're very like a slip joint. And then I show myself singularly incapable of opening this. It's got a good snap on the opening. Yeah, I mean, I think this is lovely. You've got a beautiful shiny blade. You've got the word Moki on the tang there, and on the back you have VG10 Japan. So it's VG10 steel. Now VG10 is kind of the premium steel that Moki uses, which might sound a bit odd, but if you think if this was in the purely traditional world, you would you'd probably be looking at mostly either 1095 or 420HC or 440 or something of that nature. So VG10 is probably a cut above most of those. It's probably equivalent to about 440C or something like that, I think. So yeah, I mean, it might seem expensive, but hey, that's the way it is. With nickel silver bolsters with a little bail on it, and obviously a little lock back, and I think, can't remember, the black liners are brass or steel. Steel liners, steel bolsters, steel back spring, beautifully made, beautifully finished. It's a handmade knife. Now I'm going to just do. I'll tell you something else about Moki first. Moki are known for making their own knives, but they're also known for making knives for a lot of other people. And when the kind of Paul Gerber first went over to Japan and had some of his knives manufactured there, and then his head of production was Almar. Sorry, his head designer was Almar. So Almar eventually split off and set up his own company, and you had a sort of in a way a spin-off from that. Almar's pal, Sal Glesser, was sort of introduced to Seki City as a place to make knives. Now, most of those knives, I think, originally were made by G. Sakurai, which is which was a cooperative in effect with Gerber, because the G in G. Sakurai stands for Gerber, but I think they were just they kept that just as an initial, which probably tells you something about the way American manufacturing was going at the time. But eventually, this is a little Almar knife. It's one of the few knives I've got that's actually smaller than this Moki. When Almar died, one of the problems that the company faced was that G. Sakurai were able to build knives themselves and put the Almar brand on them and sell them as their own. I think that was possibly either only in Japan or certainly outside of the US, but nonetheless it was a bit of a pain for the company. Well, when Al died, a guy called Fadden took over the company, and there was a big fight between Madden and Almar's wife over control of the company. But anyway, Mike Fadden, I think, eventually won control. And one of the things that he did was he moved production from G. Sakurai to a new deal that he did with Moki. Now this one here says FM Co. Frank Madden, not Mike Madden, Frank Madden Company, Japan. So he eventually moved production to China, but in the interim, while he was still in Japan, he moved production of these knives to Moki. And I mean, it's not hard to see that these two were made by the same people. In fact, if I was to compare it with this one, obviously the scale is somewhat different, but the shape and the lines are very, very, very similar. to the Moki's Pliant, which is the biggest knife I have by Moki, incidentally. They also make knives for Volknieven, and I love this TK3. I carry it a lot. It's a bit gummy at the minute, so and you do need to clean out the action and wash the blade for that matter. Again, this is also they're both in desert ironwood. This has a shield, but what really annoys me about this one is, well, I mean, it doesn't. I'm two minds about it. They put a shield on both sides. They also put a nail nick on both sides. So this knife is genuinely ambidextrous, but it's made by Moki, and they make their fixed blade knives as well. If I can turn this around without cutting my fingers off. Very hard to stick that in my finger. You'll see there it says Sweden. Well, that's because Volknieven are a Swedish company, but it's not where it's made. I think that's a bit misleading, and I don't like that. But I love this knife. It's just it's a great knife, and in many ways it's similar to the little Moki. It's just bigger. If lock knives were allowed in the UK, I would carry that all the time. Anyway, let's bring this one back in. So I'll just compare it to a couple of other Mokis that I've got. The biggest one I've got is the, as I said, the Pliant. And this is also a relatively inexpensive one, or was a relatively expensive one. Let's be honest here. They've shot up in price in the last year or so. I think of about 50% increase over the last year. This one is in Oz 8, and it's a relatively simple, straightforward lock back. Really nice Thuya burr wood. I think this one's got brass linings. Yes, this one's got brass linings. Steel bolsters. Lanyard hole rather. This little one has this little dinky bail on it, which I'm not sure about, but I'm not gonna throw it out because it's got a bail. Next one I've got is the Kronos. The Kronos is a really classy piece. It's still VT10 steel, so it's the same as the little one, but it's a step up from the Pliant range of knives. You've got say a VT10, so a slight upgrade in steel. You've got a nice little swedge cut in the blade. You've got a bit more figuring in the shape of the handle, and then you have this. I think it's bone stag. It's not stack. I think it's just bone that's been machined and burnt. But it's one of those things that you could look at it all day and say it could be this, it could be that, could be one or the other. I believe it's bone stag rather than real stag, but I don't. I could be wrong. This one again has steel liners. These are beautifully made knives. I actually picked this one up in a trade. It was a three-way trade between a guy in England, a guy in Germany, and myself. Can't remember what the other parts of the trade were, but when I got this, I was over the moon with it. It comes in a similar box, and it's got a sort of, it's a cordura sheath that's leather lined, but it's more like looks like Harris tweed or something, green Harris tweed. And this one just came with a plain leather slip. You've seen the slip for that one. And the last one, and without fear of contradiction, definitely the least, is this little one. This is I think it's called the Pendant. It is really tiny. In fact, let me just move these up a little bit, get them all on the screen. I shall bring back the little Almar, because it's the only knife I've got that makes the Almar look big. So, having just tried to knock everything on the floor and recovered it, yes, it's the only one I've got that makes the Almar look big. Now, I want to talk about prices, because prices of these things have been ridiculous. For a long time, you could get the pliant for around about £100, little under, little over. It varied a little, but it was that sort of price. You could get the Kronos, there's two sizes of it. You could get the smaller one, which is this one, for about 160 or something like that, and you could get the big one for 170. This little tiny baby, Yamaha's not really relevant here, this little tiny baby one, I think I paid about £80 for it, and I thought that was ridiculous amount of money, but it's quite cute. I mean, it's nice. This inlay is absolutely perfect, and the inlays in the inlay are absolutely perfect, and it has a nice little Moki leather slip with a sort of plaited leather thong strap, so you could hang it around your neck if you were so inclined. Although it does, I think if you hang it around as a jewel, you probably don't want the little slip. You'd want people to be able to see the beautiful mother of pearl. Anyway, this was about 80 quid. I think on Heine Haynes today it's 145, and that's a lot of money to pay for a little knife like that. The Kronos is well over 200 now, and I think even the pliant is 150 or thereabouts. In other words, there's been something like a 50% increase in the knives after them being very stable for a long time. And the this one, I don't know what it used to be because I'd never looked at the price, but currently it's about £190 in the UK. And that's a lot of money to pay for a little knife like that. So I wonder, are knives ever value for money? Well, probably not. But that's a lot of money to be paying for a little lockback. When you could have got, for the same money, you could get a limited edition Barlow from Eggington in what's the IXL Winston but it's from Eggington Brothers in for the same sort of money. I don't know. I mean, you can say for yourselves. I just think they've just got a bit pricey. They're still, though, very lovely knives. They're very well made. They're well presented, and I'm very fond of them. And this one will add to my collection, and definitely be a quality addition to the other knives that I already have. So if you like this stuff, please give it a thumbs up, and subscribe, and remember to ring the bell, make a comment. All of these things help the channel along. Thank you very much. Bye.